joined by a couple people who helped bring the shoe to life, and then a lot of the athletes who will be wearing it on race day. So the way this is going to work is I'm going to bring people on, ask them a couple questions, and we're going to actually open up the floor to all of you. We've got a great mix of media present. We've got people who are participating in Project 3, and then we've also just got people who were excited to see some of these pros in real life and up close before they're out on race day. So if you've got any questions, just be sure to just raise your hand when I open it up, and yeah, it'll be a fairly free-flowing chat. So I'm going to bring up Laura and Wouter now, and we're going to get this thing going. Thanks, everyone, for coming out. All right, so first things first is I want to make sure I get these titles right. So we got Laura Healy, who's the PUMA Senior Manager of Research and Sports Science. And we got Wouter Hoogkamer, who is the Assistant Professor of Running and Biomechanics at UMass Amherst. And they were two of the people instrumental in bringing the Fast-R 3 to life. So I guess, Laura, we can start with you. Just you've studied, obviously, like the Fast-R 1, 2, 3. What makes this one different from the rest?
There we go. Perfect. Yeah, this shoe is really special. I think the Fast-R for us has always been like our vehicle for innovation. So the Fast-R 1, we really played with like the decoupled heel. We learned a lot. The Fast-R 2 is when we extended the plate out of the toe. And then this one, I think we took it to a whole nother level with optimization of the plate, the foam, really, really lightweight, I think is one of the biggest innovations on this shoe. And then, yeah, we were seeing the results in the lab and hopefully in some races soon.
What do you remember was the first kind of wow moment that you had in the lab when it came to the testing?
Yeah, so we spent a really long time, as I mentioned, optimizing the shoe. We made many versions through simulation. And then when we got the first version of the shoe, when we tested it in the lab, we thought that the machine was like broken. I was like, there's no way. We've never seen a shoe this good for every single person. And that's when we were like, oh, this is really working.
Wouter, with you, you've got kind of a vast experience in examining like the super shoes era of the sport, studying it from the first kind of shoes that made ripples in the sport in 2016, and obviously the first number that was thrown out there was just 4% in running economy, and now we've added just another 3% in all this. Where are we when it comes to the super shoes era? Like, it felt like we had an equilibrium, and now we reached another tipping point.
Yeah, I think exactly that is the point where sort of growing up as trying to be a running scientist, shoes mattered maybe a bit, but they were all sort of the same. And then sort of when the introduction with the super shoes, we all of a sudden saw that it matters a lot, and we start seeing in the lab consistent improvements for all people. So that was back 2017 when we were doing that study, and obviously that was a big splash. We saw the big findings. And then since then, sort of like you were saying, that the things leveled off. Like every other brand got their own super shoes, and they made different models and trying to figure out what's the plate, what's the foam. Small differences. Some shoes work better for somebody. Another runner wants another shoe that's better for them, another brand, another model. So that's where we kind of were a couple of months ago. And then all of a sudden, PUMA delivered the shoe to the lab, and we started to see the same thing, that for everybody that we tested, we saw that it was the best shoe by far, and it was a lot better. So I think we sort of reached a new level where we went from traditional shoes, super shoes, and we start making some progress, and now we jump up again. So I'm very excited to see what this is going to bring in the future as well.
Because one of the things that happened just sort of in the super shoes development is like there are limits now just sort of in like the stack height and what you have to work with. So when we look at this model, right, like there's difference in foams and plates and all that. What makes this one so unique in terms of just like the shape?
I think that's the cool thing. Like if we go back again to 2016-17, we saw there's traditional shoes and there's super shoes, and they look totally different. They're taller, there's foams, there's plate. But this shoe, I mean, from the outside, it's not that much different than any other super shoe. So it's just an interesting mix where it's both softer, which is more comfortable, and it's more springy, and the plate seems to be optimized, and it's lighter, so it's sort of a combination of everything, which is super intriguing to see that putting it all together in that way sort of makes another step up.
Yeah. The thing that surprised me the most is when I got my hands on it for the first time was the weight. Laura, I guess, how did we make this thing so light?
Yeah, that was the big thing. We knew that Fast-R 2 was heavier than we would have liked, so a main focus for this one was really taking out as much weight as possible. And that was done, again, through our computer simulation. So we took every single component of the shoe and focused on how we could take away everything that the runner doesn't need. So where the foam wasn't being used, we cut that completely out. The plate, we were able to engineer all the layers of the carbon fiber, some like carbon fiber ribs to make it strong enough while still keeping it really stiff. So it's kind of, as Wouter said, a combination of every single part of the shoe has been optimized for the weight to get it down like 90 to 100 grams lighter than the previous model.
So just a couple of days ago, a study came out from UMass Amherst, and the magic number was 3.15% in running economy. I guess, Wouter, can you explain, I guess, the findings of the study?
Yeah, so the way that we test that, we have people come into the lab and we measure their oxygen uptake because you use oxygen to burn your carbohydrates and fatty acids, right? When your muscles are running, they use energy, and we can measure that by looking at oxygen uptake. So we have the oxygen analyzer. We have basically already since the super shoe introduction, we have developed this protocol really well. We know people need to run a couple of times in each shoe at a set speed. We need to have a proper warm-up and all those things. So we had these, and Puma was bold enough to go up against the other two brands, and we had those shoes, this one, the two, and the competitor brand, and we started bringing people. These were sort of your the people that you see out here on Monday, right? Your recreational, serious, trained runner, but not necessarily, I didn't have any elites in my backyard that would run for me, but we got some good local 230 guys who would come in, and 3-hour women, who would run at let's say, a 7-minute mile pace or a 6-minute mile pace in each of these shoes, and we measure oxygen uptake. They do it twice in each shoe, and then we start looking at how high is that oxygen uptake. So the less energy you use, the less oxygen you need to burn that energy. It's basically your gas mileage. Cars can be more efficient. People, when training a lot, get more efficient. People, when putting on shoes like this, get more efficient. And that's what we saw. So we saw consistently everybody using the least amount of oxygen and energy in the Fast-R 3 prototypes. And so everybody was the least, and then we started sort of seeing some range, and we averaged the number, and we ended up at that 3.15. Yeah.
Laura, I guess final question before I open up to questions from the audience here is, what is kind of like the most rewarding feeling that you're chasing and to see on Monday when it comes to just like a shoe on the podium? Is it people crossing the finish line after a big personal best? Like, what brings you joy as someone who is going to see this in action for the first time on Monday?
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite part of what we do is to see athletes actually get to put on the shoe and kind of hear their first reactions. We see a lot of that in the lab when people put it on and are comparing it. Like, we see some really wow faces and comments, and that's really exciting. But then really when athletes take it out to race, we've already had, Project 3, over 200 athletes and our own pro athletes running in this shoe. And just to hear their comments of how amazing it is, it's really rewarding and validating. Like, yes, what we're doing in the lab is translating to those races, and hopefully we'll see some really fast times from the shoe on Monday.
All right, so I'll open it up to questions from the audience. If anyone has anything, just raise your hand. They'll also be available afterwards for the media. Yeah.
With the super shoes, some people are known as super responders and lower responders. Did you come across any of that in your study?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what we've seen is that I don't really like the term super responder. There is definitely a range in responses. There were some poorly executed studies that started claiming super responses. But if you properly have people run in every shoe several times and they are used to running on a treadmill, we still see differences. I think for our sample, we saw it ranged from 1.5 to maybe 5%. Between the 3 and the 2, we also had these competitor brands in the mix, so we definitely saw variations. Between the 2 and the competitors, it wasn't always the two that was best. Sometimes it was one competitor, sometimes the other. It differed between people. But then the cool thing was with the three, it was better for everyone. But again, for some it was just over 1%. For some it was closer to 5 or beyond.
And so that 1% and the 3.15%, that's based off of the already super shoes? Is that right?
Correct.
So you're starting with the baseline of the top shoes, which
Yes.
already give a big boost.
That's fully correct. So if we sort of simply add up the 4% original, assume that the competitor brands are still there, we add another 3 on top of that. So we're 7% better than what people used to run in before 2016. I mean, that's 10 years ago now, so there's little less and less people around who actually still remember that, but it is still a thing.
See one right over there.
If I do the math right, the 3% for the Project 3 people, that's going to give them more than 3 minutes. Are you prepared to write a lot of checks on Monday?
Luke is ready, yes.
I love my Puma Deviate Nitro 3s. How would you compare this to that, especially the Elites?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, they're very different shoes. The foam is similar, so their Deviate Elites are still very bouncy. I think they're kind of made for different people in some ways. So the Fast-R is really our F1 car. It's going to go, if you're really trying to get a PB, go really fast. And I think the Deviate Elite is still a bit more of a democratic racer. Works for maybe still some slower paces, put a lot more miles in that shoe, and it's going to last a lot longer as well.
One more question.
Can you explain how the extended plate in front of the toe helps either propel you or helps with efficiency? Because to me, it's like a first time running in a shoe like this with the toe plate that sticks out a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So this is something we developed on the Fast-R 2. We spent a really long time kind of figuring out where the best place for that extended plate was. All it does is really just slightly extend your stride length. So we were able to get it to a point where it extends your stride length, but it's not changing your gait dramatically. So it's not going to feel like you're overstriding or needing to do too much work, but just that little bit of extended plate allows a little bit more propulsion, a little bit more push off, and it's going to give you more of like a powerful stride with every step.
Just one more up here.
Yes. Our reader asked if it works well for a slower runner.
Yeah, that's a great question. So we, when we did the first Super Shoe study, we had a bunch of very good runners in Colorado who ran 7-minute pace and faster. For this study, we tested people sort of at their marathon pace. So we had about 8 guys run about a 6-minute mile pace, so 16 kilometers per hour. And we had another, I think, 5 guys or 4 at 7-minute pace. And all the women were at 7-minute pace. And it was, I guess, one more woman actually at 7:30. So, and it wasn't that the woman at 7:30 had the least amount of savings at all. So she was up there pretty high, actually. So it gets a little tricky when we're starting to look about one person, but we did have a range of people. And there's no real reason to think it's going to be mirrored or flipped when you go much slower. But we can see that maybe at a 2-hour marathon pace or maybe at a 4-hour marathon pace, we're not seeing 3% for every runner. We don't know that at this point, but we saw this range sort of for our 2:30 to 3:15. The people that we tested, we saw that consistent improvement. So,
He had his hand up for a bit. So.
Hello. How many time do you need to develop to create a shoe like this? Thank you.
Yeah, this shoe, it takes a long time. This shoe is actually developed quicker than we usually would because, as I said, the first time we got in the lab, we were like, we need to go, like, this is already so good. So I think it was about, I want to say like 2 years ago that we started working on this shoe and started testing it to when we have brought it to life.
All right, so they'll be around if you want to ask them any questions afterwards. We do have a couple elite athletes who we want to try and get up on the stage, but let's give it up for Laura and Wouter. Thanks so much. All right, and next up, I'm going to bring up a pair of Olympians in the marathon. We got Canada's Rory Linkletter and Australia's Patrick Tiernan joining me on the stage. All right, first question's an easy one. How are we feeling for race day, guys?
I would like it if it was here already, but
You're looking at the weather and everything. What's the assessment of just sort of like the type of day people might see on Monday?
looks to me like it's as reasonable as you could ask for Boston. You know, you never know what you're going to get with the Boston Marathon. We've seen extremes on both ends, and it seems very moderate and mild, so we'll take that.
Patrick, how's that sound to you?
There we go. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I feel like the weather is, it looks pretty cool. Doesn't look like it's going to be too windy. So I think regardless of tailwind, headwind, it'll be all right. But yeah, it's a great field that's been assembled. So, got to be prepared for either a fast half or a really quick back end. And yeah, we've done well to prepare for that.
Guys, what makes Boston so special and different? Because, I mean, you guys have run at the Olympics, and this is maybe the closest thing that we get year-round where it's like there's no pacemakers. It's a very challenging course. What makes Boston so special that draws you back?
To me, it's like, I'm a fan of all sports. I feel like Boston is to running what like the Masters is to golf. It's just like because of the history, because of how long this race has been run and all the legends that have been made here, it keeps people coming back. And it's like, if you can do something special in Boston, it means just a little bit more than anywhere else.
Yeah, I mean, De Castella's Australian record, was set here back in the 80s. So I think it's a very important race for Australia in that sense. We have a lot of history at the Boston Marathon, and so it's a big one, and I love it just because I think it's pure racing, which you don't really get too often in the marathon these days. Everyone's trying to run as fast as they can, whereas Boston's just a pure race, and I think that sets you up well for things like New York down the road or the Olympics, world champs, things like that. So it's a really special race, and I'm happy to be a part of it on Monday.
Have the scars from the Paris Olympic Marathon course and just how hilly and tough that has that healed at this point to reframe your thinking of just how challenging the Boston hills are?
Yeah, I think there's like some key differences is like in Paris, the hills were all over the course, whereas Boston, you kind of just have to prepare for, the downhill at the start and then like the Newton Hills. It's like, it's kind of broken up into a couple segments, and then post-Newton is like a whole nother part of the race. But, Paris was a different beast because no one had ever run the course before, so you had no idea what to expect. Or at least with Boston, even if you've never run the Boston Marathon, you can lean on the expertise of so many people that have done it before you. And there's a lot of data out there for you to look at and analyze. So I think Paris prepared both of us probably well for this. I also ran New York in the fall, so I'm just a hilly marathon guy now.
Yeah, I mean, I think, the afternoon after the race in Paris, the first thing I thought was I want to race Boston in April. I walked away from Paris kind of thinking, I wish I'd run harder in these sections of the course, or, the hills didn't take as much out of me as I thought they would have, and kind of prepared for the distance rather than taking it as a race kind of thing. So really since Paris, I've been trying to, learn on those lessons and really put it into practice for what Boston's going to throw at us on Monday.
All right, here's a question I'm just trying to see if everyone's aligned on the same page. Is what's your shoe choice on race day?
Yeah, it's a Fast-R 3.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think we'd be here if it wasn't.
So what were your first impressions? Puma presents the shoe to you. You've run in various iterations of their super shoes and prototypes along in the process, but when you put on the final product, what was the first thing that came to mind?
Yeah, so I'll go backwards even to the Fast-R 2. When that shoe first became available, the first race I ran in it, I ran a 2-minute personal best in Seville. And I was like, wow, that shoe was really good. And then I started hearing rumblings this summer in Paris, actually, from the team in the product team, and they were saying, oh, well, the Fast-R 3 is like way better. And I was like, okay, well, I'm interested. And then, you know, it takes time for these things to come to fruition. But I got my first pair of prototypes somewhere in the middle of this block, and I took them for a spin. I was like, okay, that feels different. It's definitely a huge shift from what we've become accustomed to in the super shoe world. I feel like for a while, like we went away from the objective of light and fast, and now we're at the super response of the foam, the plate, and everything, and it's just the lightest shoe I've ever worn. As far as like, no matter pre-super shoe, super shoe era, it's just like the perfect combo of everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the reason why I signed with Puma in the first place. You know, I think when we were going through negotiations for me back in 2022, trying to find a landing spot, something that stood out to me with the Puma team was they were building something in the background. I think everybody's always trying to catch up on shoe technology rather than trying to innovate it and do something different. And to me, this is a shoe that was kind of promised back then, and it's living up to the hype for me. You know, I've also been wearing it for the last sort of 4 weeks or so in my preparation, and I mean, Rory kind of hit the nail on the head there with it. It's just such a light shoe. It's very responsive, and it is just something different that we haven't really seen before in the super shoe era. So no, it's been amazing to run in, and I'm really excited to wear it on Monday.
Are we both like fresh pair on race day, like, you know, stack miles on one pair throughout the whole entire block, and then on race day, brand new pair?
Yeah, I'm a big super shoes are best served fresh. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. My mum's stressed out about it. She hates the idea of running in a fresh pair of shoes. But yeah, that's always been my protocol with the marathon is try and get as fresh a pair as you can.
All right, so we'll open the floor up to questions in just a second, but I guess for the people who are racing Boston on Monday, best piece of advice that you've got for them?
Stay patient and enjoy the fact that Boston has so much of an atmosphere. I did this race in 2021. Didn't go great, but I still had a great time. So no matter what happens to you on race day, Boston delivers.
I don't know how good my advice is. I haven't run Boston before. So, but I think the atmosphere is what draws everyone here. So I think just soak that up, have a good experience. The hills are going to be hard. Embrace it, and then enjoy the run into Boston.
All right, do we have any questions from the audience for our two Olympians? Just raise your hand. We'll get a microphone over to you. Yeah, right here.
Hi. Right, what I'm interested in, during training with this shoe, I assume you've done some long miles, post 20. That's what I'm interested about the shoe is how does it deal with soft inclines and declines when you've got 20, 22 miles in your legs? What makes, because it's new generation geometry, I'd call it, and how does it still give you an aid at that point when your legs are not giving the same amount and you need every bit of help you can get?
My experience in training with like the longer, harder sessions, the ones where fatigue does pile up on you, is that's when you'll feel like you'll feel it at the start too, but like what you really notice is when your legs would be dead and you'll start to slow a little bit, the shoes pop off the ground. Like okay. I consider it like as if you had like a treadmill and you could set the speed, and once you've set it there, it's staying there, right?
All
like,
right. Okay.
And obviously that's not a perfect, like it's not going to actually, but it does, like your legs just go with it and it just pops off the ground, and that's where the foam comes in, the nitro foam. It's so springy in this iteration of the Fast-R 3.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just found that I'm not fighting myself in the back end.
You
of
get
those
the flow.
sessions, you know. Yeah, like especially downhill. Like I think for me in Paris, I struggled with that steep downhill.
And your quads still feel fresh. Oh,
yeah,
well,
yeah.
as much as you can after
much as
like
you can,
20.
yeah. I mean, it's a marathon. You're still going to be beat up, but
yeah, of course, yeah.
But yeah, I think running downhill in sessions towards the end of the sessions, I've just felt like I can do it much more naturally and get a bit of a run going kind of thing at that point, rather than trying to break or fight the quads and things like that. I don't know. I think this shoe just kind of allows you to keep flowing and not have to, the heel's softer, which is a big thing, I think, because it allows more of a natural flow into the forefoot rather than a stiffer heel that you may be fighting yourself to sit back a bit. but yeah, so I've had a really good experience
That's
with the
brilliant.
undulations and stuff.
Thank you very much.
Next question, back there.
How stable does it feel compared to the other shoes that in your arsenal that you use training?
Feels different for sure. That heel, I mean, you can just kind of see like off that back end there. That felt concerning when I looked at it at first, and I think that was everyone's first impression is, wow, this heel's really soft. We cut out a little bit of the back, but when you're really moving in it, I don't feel like that's something you'd notice. Like if you're standing in it, I wouldn't recommend it being like, I wouldn't say, you know, nurses or people working on their feet should be walking around in the Fast-R 3, but for forward momentum, it feels great because the stability in the mid to forefoot is just really solid.
Yeah, I mean, it's a running shoe. It's not a gym shoe, so I wouldn't do squats and things like that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing that I've noticed with it is that it's kind of a natural flow onto, kind of what I was saying before, natural flow onto your forefoot. And so I think what people will feel is, you know, we talk about the efficiency and things like that, but I do think you kind of feel more elite in your stride in general, just because it does encourage that in a way that's not, you know, you're not being forced up onto it necessarily, but you're rather rolling through the motions. So, so yeah, definitely stable when you're, you know, when you're in full flight.
Next question, right there.
Hey, Pat and Rory. Just a question around Canada and Australian records, which have gone down in recent history. You're both going to be in contention to break those records either in the near future. So what excites you about both the shoe, and every time you toe the line now, you can write your name into the history books?
For me personally, with Cam Levin's record, it's like 205.30 something. When he set that, like that seemed unattainable at the time. And you know, I ran 208 last year, and that was a big breakthrough for me, and I was really stoked on that. Put me number 2 on the all-time list. And it wasn't until this build when I like did my first big key like indicator type session in the Fast-R 3 that I was like, oh, like 205 pace now seems a little bit more attainable than it ever did for me. Just, you know, that's kind of the first time in my career where those paces didn't feel way out of my league. And, you know, I did have a good, healthy, strong build, but like this is also a big part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Australian marathon running's having a bit of a moment at the moment, you know. Andy running 206 in December was insane. So, no, it's exciting. And I think, you know, part of what drives national records is competition. And we've got a lot of guys who can push those boundaries now. So, you know, having a shoe like this in your arsenal definitely gives you a lot of confidence when you're stepping to the line. For me, I'm not really too focused on the records over this next sort of 12-month period. I just want to be getting into races and trying to compete. You know, that's something that I wanted to do in Paris and wasn't able to do. So that's kind of my focus for the next 12 months. But hey, if fast times come with it, then that's fantastic.
All right, then we got time for one more right there.
Miles of racing will you feel like you'll get on a pair?
I am wearing a fresh pair. I'll do strides in it tomorrow, so that'll be the first time it graces the feet. But yeah, I mean, I did my pre-comp before I left Flagstaff in a fresh-ish pair and trained in it throughout. So I feel good about that. I don't know how many races I'll put in it. We have the luxury of having the Puma team on our side, where if, like, we feel like we need a new pair, we can get it. But like, and we're superstitious a little bit. Like Pat was saying, we like the freshness of the shoe. But yeah, I imagine based on my experience in sessions, you could get, you know, a couple marathons out of the shoe, no problem. They don't lose their bounce over time.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I'll do some strides in mine tomorrow. So yeah, out of the box is a little dramatic, but yeah. So a couple of strides tomorrow, race day on Monday. I don't usually do 2 marathons, like wear the same shoe for 2 marathons, just because, like Rory was saying, we get the luxury of being able to get a fresh pair when we do. But But I do race in the same shoe for shorter distances, like 10Ks or 15Ks and things like that. And so, you know, I'll probably wear the same pair of shoes throughout the summer of my racing. Because, yeah, I'm pretty confident in how they respond, how they recover and things like that. So I definitely, yeah, I agree. You could get a few races out of them for sure.
All right, these guys will be hanging around. I think they've got some media interviews lined up, but guys, best of luck on Monday. Let's give it up for Pat Tiernan and Rory Linkletter. I think they're going to rearrange the stage a little bit, but our next few guests, thanks guys. Yeah, we've got a slew of Olympians, national champions. Let's bring on to the stage Dakota Popane, Annie Frisbee, Lily Partridge, Edna Kiplagat, and Sarah Vaughn, as soon as we get these chairs all set. I think we have enough microphones. All right, ladies, thanks for joining me on the stage here. First question is an easy one. What's been the most exciting part of being back in Boston for Boston Marathon weekend? I guess we'll start with Dakota and we'll work our way down.
I feel like, hey, is this on? My favorite part about Boston weekend is just being on the Charles running. I feel like there's so much energy. It's like easy to get carried away. Even today, I feel like we were going a little quick. Just, you know, chit-chatting and feeling the energy of the weekend.
Yeah, same. And then I'm just excited to be back. This is my second time. So I feel like that first time was just a learning experience and it went well, but I'm excited to be back for a second time and second opportunity.
Yeah, I was here in the summer for the 10K. I've been to Boston a few times, but yeah, to be here for marathon weekend is really exciting.
Yeah, coming back to Boston again is exciting. I'm grateful for this opportunity because I've been coming here and I've been doing really well. So I'm excited to come and run Boston on Monday.
I'm excited to change my relationship with the Boston Marathon a little bit. I've been here a couple times and it's gone pretty poorly. So Monday's going to be different.
All right, so we're also here with the excitement of the Fast-R 3 launch, and everyone's kind of gotten briefed on the science behind it. What were your first impressions when you got the chance to, work with this thing in practice?
My first session with it reminded me of the first time I had put on a super shoe, and it was just like that, oh, I forgot how helpful a shoe can be, and I had the best workout of my build for sure in the first time wearing those shoes. So I felt like it was like a, oh my goodness feeling for me.
Similar for me, I was just getting into shape. It felt like it was taking forever, and then I had my first like really good workout in the shoe. So it was like fitness was coming along, and the shoe felt really good. So it was just like an instant confidence booster.
Yeah, I had like similar experience, but when obviously we had the Fast-R 2 and the DV Elite, and then I was kind of like had this. I wanted to put the shoes together. Like I liked different things of both of the shoes, and when I put them on, I was like, okay, this is the shoe. This is like the perfect combination of both.
Yeah, I think comparing the previous Nitro Elite and this one, I tried it in my 2 sessions, the speed session and the long endurance speed. I really liked this one because it's light, comfortable, and it's a good fitting for my feet. So I liked this one.
Yeah, I mean, my first workout went really well in them as well. And I think my favorite part is that you kind of forget you're wearing them. They just feel like an extension of you. They're not distracting. I didn't think about it. Yeah, they're really smooth.
what kind of race are we going to see on Monday? It's like you guys are going to be a lot of the major players in it that can dictate just sort of, how fast or how tactical this race goes. And, now that everyone's equipped with like these secret weapons that are not a secret anymore, like what are your kind of expectations for the type of race that we could see?
I mean, I think it's hard to say exactly what kind of race it'll be. It kind of depends on what everybody else decides. I hope it's a tactical race where we're all together for a long time and get to really duke it out at the end. But I feel really confident about that because I know that with the shoe, I'm going to feel really strong from 20 to 26.
I agree. I think it's just gonna. I think it'll help no matter what kind of race it is, whether it's a tactical or a fast from the gun race. The shoes will feel good. So just kind of have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to sort of sticking my nose in it and seeing what we can do. I stuck my nose in it at my last marathon, so it'd be nice to hopefully do it in this pair of shoes, and hopefully they work faster.
Yeah, I think with the competitive feel, I hope I'm going to do my best with the right shoe and the right pace. Yeah, I'm expecting a good competition.
Yeah, I think it'll be super competitive. The field is really deep. My hope is that we get up over the heels, and like Dakota said, then we get to duke it out. And I know that like having good foam under your feet saves those legs a little bit for the last 10K, so I'm looking forward to that.
A question for you, Edna, is you are a past champion here. You've been on the podium so many times, and it's been cool to see just you have this success at this point in your career. And part of it is because of the innovation in shoes is, that the running economy and your legs are not so beat up. How special has that been, to have a team behind you that has helped you extend your career, and now you can continue to make podiums, for the next 10 more years, it feels like.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for the support and I'm very grateful for the support that PUMA has given me for the last 3 years when I joined them. I know they have worked closely with me. The products that I have been using has really helped me, and I hope I'll continue to do my best and see how far I can go. Yeah.
10 more years, I think, yeah. Sarah, one thing we chatted about when we were at the press conference yesterday was, for you, balancing just everything, training like a professional runner, being a mother, being a wife, just everything. It's like you said that this has been the longest block you've had, just kind of uninterrupted for a marathon, at least like in your professional career. I guess for you, what are some of the keys to balancing that kind of lifestyle and, just sort of over the years, like it just never gets easier, but especially when you're training at this level.
Yeah, I mean, like you referenced, I've had some breaks in the form of pregnancy and postpartum, and this is the longest stretch I've gone since I was, 20 years old, not having a baby. So my youngest is 5 now, and I've never trained for this long. So that part's kind of exciting. But I think part of my key to my longevity has been those breaks. So I'm very intentional about breaks. So though I plan on not having any more babies, I do take my breaks after marathons very seriously. And I think that's super important for your body and your mind. I don't feel my age mentally or physically. And so keeping those breaks in there is super important.
Dakota, one thing I wanted to chat with you is just sort of like this momentum that you've kind of built off of, 2024 and all of the success that you had there. Like, how do you try and bottle that up? And it's like, this is the first marathon of 2025, like, and now it's like, let's recapture that magic.
Yeah, I'm going to try to keep 2024 rolling for sure. I feel so much more confident getting on the starting line than I ever have, especially coming to Boston. They always put together such an amazing field here, so it's always been intimidating to come here. But now I know that I can stand on the starting line knowing that I was 12th at the Olympics and that, puts me on that starting line with a place to belong.
Annie, how are you kind of like gauging your own sort of like breakthroughs as to where you want to take things in your career this year in particular?
Yeah, I'm definitely looking to have a breakout year, specifically in the marathon. I've definitely built my confidence in the shorter distances, anything from mile to half marathon or even 25K. I feel like the marathon is still one that I have yet to nail, and so I'm looking to do that in 2025.
Lily, you are coming out, I think, off of a half marathon personal best fairly recently. And so, you know, the momentum's already there for you. What are the big goals for this year in particular?
Yeah, I just want to be able to, like, back in 2021, I sort of wasn't sure if I'd have much of a career. I ended up having surgery, and then it's kind of, since then, it's just been just trying to keep that momentum going, PB over all the distances and stuff like that. So hopefully, yeah, I can keep that momentum going, and yeah, PB would be nice on Monday.
All right, we're going to open up the floor to questions now. If there's anyone in the audience who has anything, just raise their hand. We'll get a microphone over to you. I see one right here.
Hey, so sorry. Thanks, I guess, first of all, for assembling this panel. And something that I think is really cool is I see some athletes who've kind of had a like storied career on the track. Like, I know you've been kind of dominating the marathon for so long. And then we have folks who've kind of jumped straight into the marathon. And I'm curious, maybe training partners aside, like if there's something that you either admire or have learned from one of your Puma teammates on this stage.
I talk to Edna as much as I possibly can and ask her all the questions, particularly about Boston. She's the queen of Boston in my book. So I just love that she's super generous with her wisdom and her experience. She never hesitates to answer my questions, and I'm all ears whenever she talks.
Dakota and I are training partners, and I feel like I learn so much from her every day, just her work ethic and having someone to chat on the cool down and warm up and work out with. I feel like I can get so much wisdom from her and her experience, and just a fun person to be around.
Do we have any second questions from the audience? Can't see behind the pillar. Oh, we got one right here up in the front. Oh, yeah, both of you.
Besides the shoes, do you have some other secrets to share with us for staying so strong all these years? So you're an inspiration for a lot of women and also for older athletes. So what is your secret? And maybe also what do you do different versus 20 years ago?
Yeah, I think there is no secret. It's only about the hard work, determination, and consistency. So whenever you do anything, have passion in it, and do your best. For me, I've been trying to be consistent for all those years. I do a few races so that I can have more time to train and to recover. I try to stay healthy. If I feel my body is tired, I take a break for a few days, and then if I feel I have pain, I have to go and see specialist. So it's only about staying fit and doing what is best for you. So I just want to encourage you to stay focused in everything that you do. Yeah.
I think we had one right there.
Hi, first of all, wish you all the best success on Monday. I'm sure we all do wish you that. Second, could you each share the non-super shoe that you train in, the model of the non-super shoe, because presumably you're alternating?
So for like my everyday trainer, I'm in the Velocity, but for long runs, I'm in the DV8.
I wear the Forever Run 2s.
Yeah, I'm same as Dakota. I'm in Velocity or Deviates as a non-carbon shoe, and then obviously, yeah, I put the fast ones on for races.
Yeah, I also use a Deviate.
And I toggle back and forth between the DV8 and the Forever Run.
Yeah, one more question from the audience, right here up in the front.
Hello, for Enrique Bagrat. You were world champion of marathon 14 years ago. So how you have lived the super shoe revolution in athletics. How you have lived the super shoe revolution in athletics.
How have you loved the super shoe revolution? Yeah.
Yeah, I think when they started making the super shoe, it has helped to run more faster, get recover fast, and it's not like the previous shoe whereby when you train on it, you take a lot of time to recover. So I can see most people who have been using the recent shoe, they run fast and they recover fast. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think that does it for our elite athlete panel. We've got some media availability that they have to get to, but let's give it up for this awesome group of ladies. Best of luck on Monday, and we'll see you out on the course. Awesome.
Just a quick announcement for everyone. Any media who are here or any content creators who want to capture content with athletes, you should go over here in front of the step and repeat. There's a mix zone set up. The athletes are going to come through. We're also going to have Wouter and Laura, who are on stage first, are also going to come through in about 2 minutes. So if you can line up, if you want to capture content. Anyone who's a general member of the public, feel free to go back through to the main space, or you can exit through the bottom. Thank you.